Hello, this is Rhonda's Lovely Sparks. We're going to do this again. I end up opening up a different live, and then the volume seemed to have went out. So I am doing a test run right now to make sure volumes are working okay. And it did look like it did sound like the volumes were working. And then all of a sudden, toward the end of the video, the volume just went out. So I said, you know what? I don't want to mess this live up. So let me have a clean start over. I'm going to start over and let this be a good video because I'm really particular on quality videos. And it's okay to start over because I do find myself really learning some new things. This inspires me to talk about it to get my material and find ideas. I'm really busy. I'm all over the place. I'm just trying to get everything set up and going. Make sure I put my lip rouge on. Hi, I'm Rhonda. Welcome to Rhonda's Lovely Sparks, and we're going to do this again. A shout out to Lady Libra for letting me know. She says she hear me now. Thank you for letting me know because the majority of it was working fine, and then all of a sudden the volume stopped working, and I checked out my mutes and I checked out everything. And sometimes I've had that to happen before where I had just to start over because I want the video to be, good quality for people to listen to and hear. So I'm so glad. Welcome. I had another live. If you all want to check out the replay, smash that like, everybody. Smash that like. I have a video that I've done before this one also, and what's so exciting is that we had our first game of the new season, NFL, American football, and it was so exciting to see the Ravens and Kansas City Chiefs. And of course, I am a Cowboys fan. I am going to be live tomorrow, and I'm going to put up some decoration here and have some Cowboy stuff, to represent my channel. So, slowly, I just want to do a shout out and thank everybody for being members and helping, some money to come in where I could buy these things, invest in my channel, improve on things around me and my mic and all this. So I'm just excited. I was excited about the game. Ravens, sorry for y'all's loss, but I'm from my Kansas City Chiefs because I'm born in Kansas City, Missouri. Yeah. I mean, I am a Cowboys fan, number one. But my side side guy is Kansas City Chiefs, y'all. And then Patrick Mahomes is from where I'm from, East Texas, too. What? So it really felt great to see all my friends, Queen Bella that was there, and it was JoJo Gonzalez and Lady Libra and Lola, and the list goes on and on with all the guys and our cowboy brothers and sisters. Shout out to you all, and thank you all so much for subscribing here too. And always let people know that I feel that my goal is to have friendly politics, and it's all about listening to politics where, I'm not creating anxiety. Because sometimes if it's something that you're going to disagree with, um, and it seems like disinformation and misinformation, then you could say, well, yeah, that's going to create anxiety because I don't want to hear lies. So I'm about debunking the lies. So if I find some material, which shout out to Mike Aldana, I don't know, you were from Kansas City, Missouri, yes? I lived in Kansas City, Missouri from birth until 6. And then that's where my parents met. And they both were students at Kansas City Art Institute, and they fell in love. And then they got married, and then here I came like 2 years later after they were married. And they said when I was born, there was like at least 6, 8 tornadoes in the area. Cray, cray. So I'm like, I'm coming out. I want the world to know. Got to let it show. I'm coming. So yeah, that's what my dad said. It was a lot of tornadoes. He left work, and it was it was pretty bad weather. So yeah, and then we moved to Louisiana, and then from Louisiana, Yeah, yeah, that's my backup team. That's my side guy. Now they said side chick. That's my side guy. Yeah, but they're not number one. Cowboys is where my heart is. Trust that. So I got some cowboy decor. Got some cowboy decor I'm gonna put some nice little things up for tomorrow. Yeah, yeah. I have my top three teams because my dad's from Louisiana. Even though he's a Cowboys fan first, he'll kind of watch. He likes peeping at the Saints and see how the Saints are doing, and he likes looking at Grambling games and LSU and things like that. So when I was younger, I'd watch it with him. But yeah, that's it. What I thought was interesting too. When I did that live, I was so excited because it felt like I've been like since I was covering the DNC every day for 4 days straight, and that's on the playlist to watch. I know I love the Cowboys first too. Oh yeah, they're my babies. And even my dad lived in Kansas City, and he's from Louisiana. My dad's team was always the Cowboys, and that goes like way, way, way back. As far as he can remember, I guess. So that's what really got me into the Cowboys, and plus I just love the shine. I love Deion Sanders and love, Drew Pearson and just the star and da 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 and the cowgirls coming. I call them cowgirls, the cheerleaders, cowgirls, the cheerleaders. They come out their pom pom. 1, 2, 3, step. 1, 2, 3, step. Little tiny ass hips. Dun, dun, dun. Their butt don't look like mine, but it's okay. It's okay. Then you get some thick cheerleaders up in there because they ain't representing all of us. I know, 3 o'clock in the morning. What? What? So I was really curious. And when I talk about politics, shout out to everybody in the chat room and sitting out in the cut, smash that like. I'm Rhonda, if you don't know me, and I'm from Texas. And I'm about debunking, getting rid of the lies, disinformation, misinformation about people like me, a woman of color, a Black woman, a Democrat who lives in Texas. I'm intellectual, I'm smart. I do like watermelon and I like fried chicken, but I've seen people of all complexions that pretty much love watermelon and cornbread. So the lie that people put out there when they say that, well, they're buying us plates to persuade our vote, it's not true. I mean, if I do end up taking a plate, which I'm just being funny, but if I did, I'm going to still vote for Kamala. I'm just saying. Because the fried fish and the fried chicken is pretty darn good, y'all. I'll take a plate. Kamala Waltz. But there's a stereotype, right? That people are slow and dumb and educated. And that's so unfair because we have the most progressive education here in the state of Texas. And we have, even though, unfortunately, Texas is red, it's still slowly turning into like a light red to a purple. The climate is changing. We have in Texas the bigger cities like Dallas, Austin, Houston, Fort Worth, San Antonio. These are college cities, right? Which means, just saying, educated. I'm not saying people who live everywhere else is not educated. I'm just saying those are the stats. And the stats show that those places, those areas are progressive Democrat. Why? Because we'd like to feel that we do study the facts. We do study the truth. And I'm not saying everybody's perfect, but I'm sure not going to sit up there and promote somebody that I think is just a compulsive liar and doesn't speak to me. I'm not going to vote for someone that doesn't speak to me. Why would I vote for somebody that doesn't say a damn thing that I can agree with? I mean, nothing. Especially me being older and smart enough, knowing my history and knowing about the tones and the code language that is being used with people who have a different color than me. And don't get me wrong, there are some people that are my color that are Republicans. So I'm not calling out per se those who have transformed, like our girl, the grandma here. Right up here, and there's Matra. There's Matra. Matra says hi. She's right here behind me. She stays close to Mama. And there's Chadwick saying hi. Okay, go to sleep. Go to sleep. I know I'm loud. I'm sorry. Go to sleep. Go back to sleep. I always tell him that because I don't want him having anxiety where he's at. I want to give a little update about this grandma, and it's just a sentence or two to give you an introduction on what I'm reading about. Like, who is this woman, right? Well, she's a former MAGA, and she was here it is right here. She was part of the January 6th, right? And why she flipped. She was sentenced. She served prison time. And what it says is Pam Hemphill participated in the January 6th Capitol riots. This lady that I'm going to play right now. She participated in the January 6th Capitol riots and spent 60 days in prison as a result. She pleaded guilty because, as she says, I was not a victim, I was a volunteer. Since then, she has rejected the MAGA movement and is now actively campaigning for Vice President Harris. The sad thing, I'm laughing about it because I'm excited about it. But also, what's unfortunate, what she is also experiencing is a lot of backlash. And I'm going to let her tell you that of what she's going through. And it's a wonderful interview that is on the Midas Touch. And again, shout out to Lady Libra for letting me know
you could look it up.
that my volumes wasn't working.
Michelle West. It's free Michelle West.
Okay.
Whatever. They've already threatened me. What are they going to do to me? Just kill me?
I grew up in Philadelphia, but my family's from North and South Carolina. I'll be voting for Kamala also. Hope I spelled her name right. Yes, you did. Thank you, Lady Libra.
This is the inaugural episode of the Ken
Shout
Harbaugh
out,
Show,
because Philadelphia has really people there have been really awesome when it comes to voting. You guys out there are amazing. Amazing.
This is a continuation of everything I've been doing with the Midas Touch Network, including Burn the Boats and the Against All Enemies documentary. Please click on the link below to subscribe to the podcast version of the show. We're starting with someone special. Pam Hemphill is known in MAGA circles as the MAGA Granny. She's been name-checked by none other than Donald Trump as someone he claims was wrongly persecuted for her actions on January 6th. That's her in the Capitol on that day. But Pam's story since then defies everything MAGA and Trump would have you believe. She went to jail for what she did, 60 days in one of America's toughest prisons, and openly admits that she deserved it. She pled guilty because, as you'll hear, she knows she was guilty. Pam found her way out of the cult of Trump. That's how she herself describes it, and is now campaigning for Vice President Harris. She is why we do shows like this on the Midas Touch Network. I didn't know until I had her on camera that she's a fan, not just of Midas Touch, but of the shows I've hosted, Burn the Boats and Against All Enemies. It is precisely for people like Pam Hemphill, who are desperate to know the truth about MAGA and to understand the dangers posed by someone like Donald Trump, that we do this work. If ever there was validation that channels like this matter, it's people like Pam Hemphill. And so I am deeply honored to share our first episode of the Ken Harbaugh Show. This conversation with
exactly, Lady Libra,
MAGA Granny, who has now become their worst nightmare, about what drew her out of the cult and what we need to do between now and November to crush MAGA once and for all. Before we get into it, just a reminder of how MAGA and Trump are trying desperately to erase what actually happened on January 6th. Next week, they're holding a gala at Trump's Bedminster Golf Club in celebration of the insurrectionists. Here's the announcement for that. And here's just one clip of many of Trump calling the J6 rioters hostages.
Well, thank you very much. And you see the spirit from the hostages, and that's what they are, is hostages. They've been treated terribly. and very unfairly, and you know that.
Now, I believe there's going to be something bad.
And we're going to be working on
I
that.
believe that they're that
The
ignorant.
First day we get into office, we're
They've
gonna
been in
save our
training
country.
for it.
We're going to work with the people to treat those unbelievable
But also,
patriots,
the
and they were
military are
unbelievable patriots
trained
and are.
for it too.
You see the spirit just cheering, they're cheering while they're doing that, and they did that in prison, and it's a disgrace, in my opinion.
I'm so honored today to have Pam Hemphill on the show. We've been corresponding over Twitter and text leading up to this interview. And at one point, she said she knew all of those people in the Against All Enemies documentary that I produced right here on the Midas Touch Network. Pam, you were there on January 6th. You had a journey up until that point, and an even more compelling and fascinating journey after it. But tell me about not just that day, but the aftermath and seeing depictions like Against All Enemies and realizing you were in the middle of it.
Oh, yeah. You know, I was so excited. It's like being invited to Disneyland. It was going to be a huge rally. We had a few small ones here, a couple hundred people. And it was always like a community. We're all cheering on Trump, you know, because, you know, the Democrats are going to turn this into a communist nation, and we're going to stop that. And it was so much fun. I got down there a little too late, though, at 10:30 in the morning, and the crowd was so big, and I had 40 stitches. I couldn't allow myself to get around a big crowd like that. So somebody had said Trump was going up to the Capitol, and I said, the Capitol, why is he going there? And he's just having a speech. But I thought, okay, I'll get up there before everybody else. You know, I'll walk up there. And on the way there, I ran into the Proud Boys. And I started asking them, because I thought the Proud Boys will be with Trump. And I could be, because see, I'm a citizen journalist in Boise. I had like 30,000 followers. I was their eyes that day. And I said,
That's
are
Mothra.
we going inside the Capitol? Oh, my God. Of course, I thought legally. And they said, no, we're not
That's
going inside.
Mothra.
But one of the journalists that I asked that was with them, their camera lady, said, yeah, there's a few planning on going inside. And I thought, oh, maybe they've been picked by Trump. So, but they left, and I went up front, and that's when it all started, the craziness.
What was the moment when you realized that something awful was happening, that this was not a peaceful protest by a bunch of tourists with love in the air, as Donald Trump put it, but that something truly menacing and anti-democratic was happening?
Well, when I was up front, now remember, I'm on the east side. I don't know about that. I hate to minimize my side because the media was showing all the violence
Yes,
on
she
the
is
other
sweet.
side.
She's
So
a
I
sweet
don't know that's
baby.
happening. And I have this naive belief that the Republicans leave the Capitol cleaner than when they left it, right? Well, I'm all for yelling and holding your signs, but you do not push barriers. You do not push officers. Nobody's going to do that. That would be crazy, right? Maybe a few idiots. But all of a sudden, William Dunphy, that's his name, he got arrested, started pushing the barriers. Well, he was talking to an officer, and I turned to him. I said, what are you guys talking about? He says, we're negotiating. They're going to let us go to the steps. So I'm thinking that's what's happening, that they're trying to get in too quick. And that's all, like at a football game or a concert. So I was panicking, though, when they started pushing the barriers, and an officer pulled me over. But I'm thinking, well, they're letting us in, so I'm going around telling everybody, come on in, it's your house. Oh, my God. When I realized something was wrong, they're not coming in, the officer said, no, they're not letting them in. You get back over that barrier. As soon as I got back over, they did it again, and this time they were successful. So I ran to the captain. The captain said, go behind the officers at the steps, and I'll tell them you're coming, because I told him I had stitches. I didn't know what to do. It's like a buffalo coming at you. You're panicking. I got up there, but they pushed me towards an officer, and I was thinking real quick, and I let myself go back so I don't land on the officer. And they these wonderful patriots stepped on my head, broke my glasses, pulled out my shoulder, cut my knee. I wasn't breathing. I would have died if it wasn't for the Capitol Police officers that day.
Wow.
Tell me about that. The Capitol Police officers were protecting you. who just moments earlier were telling people to breach the barrier.
Oh, yeah, they were protecting everybody. They didn't care who you were. They were doing their job, and they were not starting anything. I have a video that shows they're just standing there at the barriers. They're not pepper spraying anybody or doing anything. They're just doing their job. But on the other side, because a lot of the propaganda is the officers started it all. That's not true. They're trying to get the crowd away.
Yeah. You obviously were captured on film, and there was a knock on your door sometime later. I want to hear about that, but the point is that you owned up to it. You accepted responsibility, and you've said many times since then, I'm just going to read the tweet. I wasn't a victim of J6. I was a volunteer. How did that realization dawn upon you? Was it before or after the knock on the door? Was it a process? How did you come to that?
Well, you know in your gut you've done something wrong. It's not like there's an intent to break the law. When you're in a group and a crowd like that, you're not thinking, oh, I'm trespassing. It doesn't come to you. Now, you know you've done something wrong if you push a barrier or hurt an officer. That's obvious. But I'm not thinking like I'm breaking the law. But they help you with the gaslighting. Everybody kept telling me, Pam, don't plead guilty. You were innocent. It's our house. You had a right to be there. And I thought, I did? But not until
Our
my
house.
attorney says, no, that house was locked down to everybody that day. So they help you. But I knew in my heart and soul I was wrong. It doesn't matter what my intent was. It was trespassing, period, black and white. I broke the law.
You went from that, though, admitting culpability, pleading guilty, because, as you said, you were not a victim. You were a volunteer.
Thank you. She
to
is a little
actually
sweetheart.
Pushing back against
She is really
the lies
sweet.
and the propaganda, and recently holding a Harris for
baby.
President sign in Boise, Idaho. Tell me about that journey from being part of the insurrectionist crowd to seeing the light and campaigning for Vice President Harris.
Well, actually, I'm the one that started the first J6 Defendant X Space. And that gentleman you have on your documentary, I forgot his first name, but he goes by the General. He's the one that hosted that space for me. And we got together because I didn't know how to host at the time, how to use Twitter. So he got it started. And I kept telling them, I know I'm going to plead guilty. And he would push back and say, you're not guilty. You're not guilty. And there were issues going on. And I didn't agree with standing up for those that were harmed the officers. I thought, why are they standing up for these guys? Some would come in. They would have phone calls on space. And I thought, I don't want to hear from this guy. I was angry that they hurt the officers. But that started the whole smear campaign against me. So I went and started the J6 gaslighting space. And all the sedition hunters, and I mean real researchers, came in and helped me with facts. Because I thought, we're going to stop the spin of this J6 narrative.
Yeah.
And what had happened, Ryan Samsel, he's the one with the red Trump hat. That Epps whispered.
Oh, I know
in his
it's
ear.
mega hot with her for
We
telling the
put
truth.
out
Yeah.
an article
You should
that
hear
he
about the
lost
death
his
threats and
whole
everything
eyeball
too.
while he was in jail.
Awful.
Come to find out, because I talked to one of his attorneys, which his attorneys were assigned by Sidney Powell. Sidney Powell had given him attorneys, that he had been beat up inside the jail, but he didn't lose his eye. He had called somebody the N-word, and that's why he got beat up. And then his gift sending go went way high. And I thought, this is a grift. I mean, they're just trying to get money. That's all. Not get facts and truth. They're lying. Every one of them were lying about what's happening inside the jail. And that got me upset. It's like, come on, you guys, we'll stand up for our liberties and our rights, but not through lying and propaganda.
You shot this video on January 6th, standing right next to Jacob Chansley, one of the most recognizable figures from that day. I want to play the video and we'll talk about it.
Oh, Kamala Harris. Anyone, John Roberts is another great example. Anyone and everyone who's associated with China Anyone and everyone who's associated with the globalists.
Is it the enemy of the
Anyone and everyone who's saying Joe Biden won the election. People like Mitch McConnell. Okay? All these rhino Republicans. Every single one of them is a traitor.
You knew all of these people, Pam. During the insurrection, you were with them. In the aftermath, you went to jail. You stayed in touch with many of them who remained in jail long after your sentence ended. Why do you think you're one of the only ones who was able to extricate yourself from the cult-like thinking around Trump and MAGA?
I contribute some of it to the fact, and I don't break my anonymity, but I do. I'm trying not to promote. I'm in a program, a 12-step program, and I just celebrated 45 years sober. And those steps are spiritual principles. And I knew in my heart I was wrong. I just knew it. And I needed to make amends. And going to prison and paying your fines didn't feel like enough. And when CNN got a hold of me because of what Trump had said, horrible about my story, I got upset. I didn't want to be used out there as an example of what the DOJ is doing against J6 defendants, because it's not true. DOJ was not weaponized against me. I broke the law, but they're using me.
Good for her, yes.
Nobody gave me permission to say Mega Granny. It was Carlson Tucker that gave me that name. My brother calls me in prison and says, you're being called Mega Granny. I said, oh my God, don't put me out there in the news.
Right.
But when CNN called me and asked me to come do an interview and talk about it, it took me 3 times I said no to them. But then I said, no, I've got to step out. I've got to share that this is a cult and this is wrong what they're saying out there. And it was hard to do, but I'm glad I've been doing it now.
You're not just doing it from the safety of your living room over Twitter or in interviews like this. You're putting yourself out there in a very real way. Here's a clip of you being escorted, having caused no disruption whatsoever, but being escorted out of a Trump event because they recognize you.
But I gotta be told what I did wrong.
It's okay. It's a private event, man. They asked you to leave. We have to ask you to leave.
The campaign asked you to leave? The campaign asked you to leave?
I don't know. Who's asked me to leave?
Yes.
I don't know who's asked me to leave. Why? For what? What have I done, sir?
I don't know.
Can I talk to somebody?
No, man. They asked you to leave. That's all we
No.
can do. It's a private event. We have to ask you to leave. That's all.
Pam, what is it like being in a space like that, knowing how much people despise you for simply telling the truth?
Oh, yeah, it was horrible. I thought, this is a free nation. Aren't we allowed in these events? They said it was a private event. A private event, I think you are invited. You have to pay for it. It wasn't a private event. But I had talked to some of the campaign members there, and I guess they figured out who I was because they said, what do you want? What do you want me to do? I wanted to get up front. I said, I was with a journalist from Finland, and we just wanted to be there just in case he passes by. I'm not a person that would disrupt anything. I'm not going to yell at him where he's talking. But if he was going to pass by, I was just going to say, Trump, do you know that I went to prison for your lies? But I didn't get the chance. Somebody found out who I was. I guess they recognized me and kicked me out. And I thought, why are they kicking me out? I didn't do anything wrong.
Talk to me about that time in prison. Obviously, it began with that knock on the door. Did you expect that?
I think what happened, because I'm very well known, all the Boise police here know me by name because of all my events I've been to, and I was with Ammon Bundy, so they know me. I think this is my guess, I was under the care of chemotherapy at the time. I think they waited, because when they arrested me, and I want to get rid of that lie, there's a lie out there that a granny was dragged down the steps. I think they waited to arrest me till I was done with everything, because when they showed up, I said, oh, I'm glad you're here. I've just been worried if I'm going to go to prison or not or get arrested for this. Nobody could tell me anything. But, what was I going to say? Oh, they treated me so good. I'm telling you, there was like 7 officers and a female officer. And when I went into the bathroom with her to change my clothes, I could start crying right now because she put her arms around me. No, I'm sorry. She wanted to. She came close. She said, I can't touch you. But I'm starting to get emotional about remembering. She says, it's going to be okay. You'll be out by 1 o'clock for your next appointment. That's the FBI, how bad they are, right? And then I said to the FBI agent, I said, I need to call my brother. I got to let people know what's happening. He said, no, you can't call, but don't worry. You'll be out by 1. And I said, well, I got to be.
They refused her to make a phone call?
And he says, oh, go ahead. It was like, and then I'm going downstairs, and the Boise police said, oh, there you are, Pam. You're Bill. My God, where's your handcuffs? And I said, handcuffs? They better not put me in no handcuffs. I was joking with him. But he said, I've never seen anybody arrested by the FBI that weren't handcuffed. I said, oh, well, that's good.
Mm.
No, it was a scary experience because I've never been to jail in my whole life. I didn't know what to expect.
How did the sentencing go, and how long were you in for?
Well, the actual arrest is only 3 or 4 hours. It wasn't very long. And I was released at 1 o'clock. But it took 8 months or so before the actual sentencing date. And what happened, my judge, Lambert, he said he had given the wrong sentence to a J6, or I think he had probation or something. And she went out to the media and told the media the opposite of what she had told him. And he was disgusted with it. She had lied to the judge that she was sorry, and she admitted her fault, and then goes out and says the DOJ has weaponized against her. So he said, I made a bad mistake, and so I'm not going to do that again. I believe you, Miss Hemphill, everything you're sharing, but I'm not going to make that mistake again. So he went with the recommendations of 60 days prison, but that's okay. I get it.
60 days prison.
I'm not upset.
Yeah. Were you in prison with other J6 defendants or not?
No, Dublin prison. It's the worst prison in the United States. In fact, they got shut down because the warden had been having relationships with the women. There were drugs in there. There's a big article about it. You could look it up. But I want to speak out for Michelle West. It's Free Michelle West. She's a beautiful black Muslim lady. And the women were planning on putting drugs in my room. And if there's drugs in your room, you could get a 4-year sentence. They hated Trump, of course. It was 95% cartel women. And Michelle West says, what are you doing in this unit? Only lifers are in this, 10 years or more. What are you doing in here? And I said, I don't know. I'm just in here. And she says, misdemeanors are never in this unit. So I was in the worst unit you can imagine. And I'm lucky to be here. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be out. She saved my life.
Wow. You didn't just get out of prison and move on with your life. You committed yourself to telling the truth about what happened on January 6th, about the FBI and the DOJ doing their best to seek justice for those who perpetrated that attempted insurrection. And you have since endorsed Vice President Harris for president. How has that experience been in a pretty conservative place like Boise, Idaho? I'm from Ohio. I understand conservatism, and grew up in Alabama, but Boise is its own kind of conservative bubble. How has that conversion been received?
Oh, not well at all. Yeah, I was with Ammon Bundy. This is the far, far, far right country. The white supremacists, you name it. They come out with their ARs strapped on them.
And can you, for the unfamiliar, give us the Ammon Bundy primer? Bundy Ranch, very anti-government, willing to take up arms, right?
Yeah, I was with him in video. Actually, I was following them. He started the People's Rights Movement. And this is another thing one day I'd like to talk to you about. It's all over the nation. It's a very dangerous movement. That's where if they believe the government's overreaching, I can make a phone call and 100 people will be out here to stop the officers from arresting you. But Ammon Bundy, I was with him with all the arrests in Boise, Idaho. they set the rest
Stop officers for
on purpose.
arresting you?
He was in the Capitol, and a lady said that they wouldn't let her be a journalist up front, which you have to get permission to be up front and get approved first. Well, he grabs my phone and goes up there and sits there anyway, defying the rules, saying we have a constitutional right to be a journalist and be up front. That's where up front, like the Channel 7, they're allowed up there, the media. And I thought, this is a setup. Every one of them I was watching, they do it on purpose.
Idaho State Capitol?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I became friends with the Capitol Police because I had caught somebody. They were scratching on Our Liberty Bell.
I believe
The
she also has cancer.
USA, and I caught him on camera.
So she's
I started working with
trying
the
to
Capitol
recover from
Police
that
to
too.
make sure that if I see anything or videotape anything illegal, I would contact them and turn it in. And I just want to debunk one lie about up that Capitol. They said that on my court records that I was part of that mob. They broke the door. An officer was pulling on the door. They were trying to get themselves in there that day. I was just there videotaping. I wasn't involved I never got involved in their protest. I was for everything they were doing, but I wasn't doing what they were doing. I was in the back just videoing.
Guilty by association.
This is the anti-government movement that has its epicenter in rural parts of Idaho, and it's
all over the country. It's everywhere
now. It's all over the country. But this predates your involvement in the J6 riots, and its context for all of your relationships that are now falling apart and actually turning against you.
Oh yeah, there's death threats. Yeah. I got death threats.
I didn't see Patrick LaBelle.
Quite a few just the other day.
Patrick LaBelle says, "My God, Trump obviously cares about Americans, whereas Biden and Harris don't give a blank. Even as a Canadian, this is so obvious to me. I don't understand TDS, but it will ruin the U.S."
Army, the People's Rights.
Well, thanks for visiting, Patrick LaBelle.
Militias they hooked up, and they're going to have their own grand jury. I don't know if you've seen Ivan Rackin's list of who they want to arrest.
I have. It's like a star chamber to prosecute any.
Even though I do disagree with you, Patrick.
Trump term, it's terrifying stuff.
For treason, and I went to one of their trainings about it. I have a video if you haven't seen it yet on the training, and he says that the judge should be arrested and hung for treason, and that's their plan. It's scary.
So, what brought you all the way around to supporting
Project 2025
and putting yourself out there at some risk, I would venture to say, in Boise, Idaho, openly campaigning for her?
Well, actually, like I shared, the facts that the sedition hunters and the real researchers brought into my J6 gaslighting space got me started. I wasn't pushing against Trump per se, but the more I found out the facts about January 6th narrative, I thought it's got to get out there. They're lying about everything. The officers did not open the doors. Nancy Pelosi was not responsible for the National Guard. So it was a slow process by learning facts. My critical thinking started coming back. Now, today, media is fact-checking everything that Trump says. They weren't doing it back then. You just listen to it. And then I'm talking to the lieutenant governor, people with 2 PhDs, senators, and Congress that are at Ammon Bundy's meetings. So why would I believe that they're lying? But I'm so glad that I've come around. And of course, I started talking about Project 2025. I told Abby Phillips on CNN 8 months ago, don't worry about Trump, worry about Project 2025. That's what you need to be
worry about both of them.
And actually, I don't know if you've seen
you can walk and chew gum at the same time.
It started in 1930. It was in 1953 that they started the National Prayer Breakfast. That's what Project 2025 is. We got to get rid of that National Prayer Breakfast because they're been embedded in this philosophy of theirs. They have a little book called Jesus. It's their Jesus. It's not the Christian Jesus. That is what's happening in our Congress right now.
Oh yeah, it's full blown Christian nationalism. With you being such a public voice for taking responsibility for your actions on January 6th, are there other J6ers who have reached out to you and said,
No.
I want to find, no.
I wish. I
She
keep
said
hoping.
no.
I keep hoping. No, they like being a martyr and collecting a lot of money.
Yeah, I don't understand how
Tell me
people
about
can vote for this
the money. How does
2025,
that work?
which is hurt U.S.
It's a
and other
gift,
brown
send
people.
and go,
Exactly.
and they claim
And
it's
it's
for
for,
attorney fees, and so I'm
it's
trying
like
to do research.
anybody
So far,
who is
I
against
found
the agenda
63% have a
are going to be
court-appointed
casted out.
attorney. Why do they need this attorney? This money?
And the
for
cast
what?
out is
pay their
like,
fines, I guess, whatever.
there's a
But,
punishment that
the
comes with
Proud
that.
Boys attorney told me he was upset because they had stole the money that was supposed to be going to him for his attorney fees. So they're lying, they're stealing money. I'm glad that some of the judges have been taking it for their fines, but it's all a scam. It's all a scam.
All a scam.
Why is it important that someone like you flies the flag, so to speak, in a place like Boise, Idaho, stands on a sidewalk with a Harris for President sign? You know what? Before you answer the question, I want to roll the clip because I find it adorable and inspiring, and I'm going to stitch a few together here because you had a few visitors. Here we go.
Wow.
Pam, why does it matter in a place like Idaho, which is probably going to vote for Trump in November, to still be out there and say you're proud to be on the side of right and good and the side of history when we end up looking back on this era decades from now?
I feel like I have this desperation because when you realize that Trump is a cult leader, he's a very dangerous man. And Project 2025, oh my God, it's like knowing that Hitler's going to take over. You feel desperate. And when she said do something, I thought, I can't do much, but I'll go out with my sign. And I got this attitude, I don't care, come throw eggs at me or whatever. I want people to know that we're standing with her and whatever I can do to help. And I can't volunteer for the Democrat Party like walking around because of my physical issues. Like you see, I had to sit down there, but because of the chemotherapy effect and medicine I'm taking. But I thought, I just love it. I love the fact that I'm standing up for goodness, for the right party now. My way of still making amends, and hopefully, and you would believe the people that came and hugged me and was taking pictures. They didn't know I was Mega Granny, though. I told a few. It wasn't for that reason. They were so happy that somebody was out there with that sign. They were just jumping up and down, and you saw I took some pictures with some of them. I could have taken about 50 people pictures, but. It was just a good feeling to be out there standing up for her. I can't wait to do it again this Saturday. I don't care what they say or do to me. Whatever. They've already threatened me. What are they going to do to me? Just kill me. I mean, yeah.
Oh, boy.
Let them be mad.
The other thing that a demonstration like that does, a demonstration of support for a candidate, is it shows people who are otherwise feeling isolated and alone in their support that they're not isolated or alone. Sometimes it only takes one sign in a neighborhood for 10 others to show up. I've seen that all over Ohio, especially rural Ohio. When the first blue sign goes up, it turns out there are other Democrats around that you never knew about, but there's been such an air of menace in our politics coming from the right that it takes that first brave gesture to dispel it and to show people that you're not alone.
Yeah, and they're frightened here in Boise. They are. They're scared because they come out with their ARs and try to intimidate you. Don't be afraid. I'm not going to let their fear mongering stop me from doing what's right. I'm not going to allow it. We don't like bullies. I don't, and I'll stand right up next to you and say, Sorry, I'm voting for Harris. But don't let that stop
Go
you.
ahead,
And,
Grandma.
maybe we can get them out there so we can register people. I did run into one of the ladies that's involved in the Democrat Party. She said she'll be out this Saturday. So I hope they bring some flyers and stuff.
Yeah. One of the ironies in all of this is that MAGA is actually terrified of you. They are terrified of what you represent. Can you talk about what makes a cancer surviving J6 defendant grandmother so terrifying to this supposedly manly party?
Well, as a retired alcoholic drug counselor, I had to confront addicts and alcoholics with their disease. And you can't candy coat because it's their life that's in stake. And I don't do that. I don't try to make something sound right. You tell the facts and let them know the truth. But you get resistance because nobody wants to admit, yeah, I'm an alcoholic, I'm a drug addict, I need help. No, they'll fight you tooth and nail. And that's what they're doing with me. They're fighting me because they know I'm bringing the facts, not my facts, but, all the research I've done. I'm just sharing in my own experience. Do not tell me that was a peaceful protest. I was there. So they gaslight you. They're continuing with their grift. Well, you just got to stand your ground and keep giving them facts. Because later, when people were confronting me with my alcoholism 45 years ago, I didn't want anything to do with you. I was mad too. But I remembered what you said. And I eventually got back and got sober. So I think eventually the Megas, if they keep hearing it, Trump is a cult.
She calls them the Megas.
Leader. And Project 2025 wants to take away your democracy over and over and sharing some of those facts about Project 2025. They're not going to walk away the same. We're planting the seeds. Just plant the seeds.
Go ahead.
Bam, thank you so much for joining us. Can't wait to talk again. And we will see you on Saturday. I will see you virtually, but I hope you get a ton of traffic.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate you.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Midas by signing up to the Midas Touch News.
That was an interesting outtake and intake that is very enlightening, which for me, it just gives me a lot of respect for her, because we know when ourselves in our lifetime as people out there, shout out to everybody sitting in the chat room and chiming in. Feel free to chime in, smash that like, even though you don't agree with me, still smash the like, because I give good politics here. And the politics is also sharing a different perspective, probably different than how you feel. But again, I'm friendly about that. I did see Patrick LaBelle said, my God, Trump obviously cares about Americans. This is what Patrick LaBelle said. Whereas Biden and Harris don't give up. And I guess that's the F word. Even as a Canadian, this is so obvious to me. I don't understand TDS, but it will ruin the U.S. So I'm just looking at Patrick LaBelle. And if you're still here, you say that Trump obviously cares about Americans. And so I would like for you to be very clear and specific on who you are calling an American. Is an American somebody that agrees to your philosophy, your political philosophy, and religious philosophy? Does it include somebody that disagrees with your philosophy? What to you, what is an American? Have you alienated anyone, possibly? And then you said that you're a Canadian. And what I find fascinating about you, Patrick, and many people out there is that there are a lot of people that do feel like Patrick is why more people need to vote. Um, I remember seeing a gentleman who's out there. I can't see his comments. Yeah, it's right below the one where you said Martha is such a sweetheart, and he just wrote that one time. I don't think he's still here, but I remember this gentleman going around in England. Um, he's talking to some British people, and he's asking them about America's politics and if they were whether for Trump or whether for Kamala. And there's a tone there that that people use that they don't understand when they're saying things that we could pick up on some language that just because someone says as Americans, then a part of our voting system is that we don't have to agree. It's why we have the right to vote. And just because we don't agree with someone, it doesn't mean we're not American. And guess what? That could be even on, the MAGA side and Republican side. Even though if you are aware out there is that Republicans are a broken party. And you have MAGA that cannot stand Republicans, and they call them rhinos. So you have people within the Republican Party, like George Bush, and many of people who served on his staff, along with many people who served on several Republican staff, even the pilots. They're like, oh no, I don't like Trump. And that's what's great about being an American, that we can disagree. We don't have to agree. And because they are in the Republican Party and they have carried on, especially when McConnell was a leader of at sometimes the House, or it just depends who lost or won, or the Senate, right? McConnell built the monster. Republicans are very busy building momentum, and they build the momentum of the monster. Well, guess what? They've been building this monster way before Ronald Reagan, but since they felt they had the momentum, then they were cool. And then when you saw Sarah Palin, this Ted Cruz, this Tea Party stuff come in, and it's like, uh-oh. Well, you're disrespecting the Republican, the Republican philosophy. And there was something that Mike Aldana sent me, and I have to find it because I want to use the correct word that he sent me. And it's called Basics of What the Federalist Society is. Federalist Society. And so Trump has been proud about breaking the hearts and minds of the Federalist Society. Okay, so Federalist Society is like the book of gods of gods of all politics ever. And if you have the Federalist Society is choking, gagging, and having a heart attack of the types of things that Heritage, who created or came up with the philosophy and the laws of this over 900-page Project 2025. And they're like, what the F? They're like, dang, Tea Party was nothing but a party. This MAGA, this Trump stuff is worse. And what it means worse is that not just because if you are, not just because you are, it used to be, I would always tell people because you were white, then you knew where you stood in politics. And if you were black, you knew where you stood in politics, right? And then what's happened with the Project 2025, because we saw this happening, we saw this breaking. I mean, they weren't just speaking different languages. People who, were in office made it very clear what they were going to do when Republicans took over their positions in the White House. They made it clear. We can't be shocked. But then you have millions of people who still, if they might be registered or not registered, but not voting. So they kind of sit on their thumbs because they kind of get lost with the white noise. And the white noise is when you get this bathroom bill, they put it in the mix, and oh my God, this person is a man, and they applied to be a woman for the Olympics, and you're getting caught up in some petty-ish because these people who are making a bunch of hoopla about something, it's not being really authentically honest with you when it comes to the origins of where all this comes from and why. That it's just not, the bathroom bill and some transgender guy's going to go in the bathroom and pull out his thing and use it. It's not even it ain't that type of party. And that started with that. Then it built into what? The Planned Parenthood, because they knew what to say to build up momentum. And they're saying one thing on this media, and they're saying something else on the other media. And they're saying one thing on Mark Levin's media, and they're saying something else on CNN. They're topsy-turvy, working it and working the lie. And then when you get Ted Cruz off in the mix, he's like, got his feelings hurt. And it's like, well, damn, I thought I was a part of y'all. No, you ain't, Ted Cruz. You're not a part of that. That means if you're white, you are an outcast to the Project 2025. You're not a part of their circle. I mean, why is this so complicated for some people to really understand? I mean, I feel the reason why I've taken some great interest because this just sounds like the repeat of what Black people always been going through. Suppression, inequalities. It's always been something. It's not acceptable. But I've dug pretty deep in my history to understand that this language is nothing new. It's why it matters. And it's okay to become emotional from this and about this because when they have language, and I don't waste my time scaring people because I don't believe in the BS. But I do believe when I read something, and I read a lot of it, and I still have more to read. When I read something that, okay, you're going to deport millions of people who are not Americans. And we're smart enough to know that that language means someone who has probably paid to get some authentic paperwork to be legit in America. That means anything a Democrat did, they're going to turn that all back when it comes to any kind of things that have allowed the children of immigrants, the children who are in college, who are getting an education, who are working, who are living here. They're not telling you specific language, but me understanding that language, that means anybody that's not blonde and blue eyes. I mean, does that sound familiar? That you're going to get them all out because guess what? You're just not talking about people who are not going through the process of becoming an American fairly. We're not talking about that. That's not talking about that. It's talking about anybody. And it's anybody that it's not MAGA. If you are Republican and you're speaking against them, the language says that they will charge you with treason. And you know that there are still laws in this country, in many, especially the southern states, where they can lynch you. That it's still a law. So it's not about being scared. And like this woman that we saw talking, and she was being asked questions, and she's flipped from being a MAGA supporter, a MAGA grandma, to now a supporter of Kamala Harris. Now you see the bravery of lots of people who are Republicans who are probably kind of wired that this is not about me, I ain't worried. Then all of a sudden, when they became personally attacked, and just like this woman said, this grandma said, she became enlightened. She ended up learning the truth. Then she's like, I'm on the wrong side. Because she gave lots of examples on how things were set up, how the MAGA was there and how they personally set up people to look like this and set up the lies and set up the Capitol officers and try to plant this notion and plant that notion. And because it is the party of lies, because they've been thriving from the lie. And here's my favorite quote. Y'all ready to hear my favorite quote? A person will believe in the lie as long as it makes them feel comfortable versus the truth that makes them feel uncomfortable. And this is why they do it. If the lie is uncomfortable, it's okay. Is that any different than what history says or has done? No. It's not anything different. It's not acceptable. But it's like nothing new for me. This is not new. And what makes it new for a lot of people, because they really felt, yes, Lady Lieber said, that's why they angry with her. Yeah, because she jumped on the different side, because they have this indoctrination, this generational curse that we all have to be the lynch mob. We're the lynch mob. We all have to be together. Let's get all our sticks and forks and whatever. Let's go after them. It's the same attitude, same thing. It's just now it's AR-15s. Now it's putting it in writing and using the laws against people who don't like them, who don't like the doctrine, that doctrinated stuff. Nope, don't like that. And also there's language, and don't believe me, Heritage has on their website, it's free. And just take your time and just read a little bit at a time. And pay attention to that. And just Google and research and listen and ask and just be woke. Just pay attention to what Project 2025 is talking about. And I'm also a member of a website that's called The Indivisibles. And it's a group that's been put together when Obama was in office. And I got like a brief an email that was some versions in there that was kindergarten terms. Not to say I'm not smart. It's just sometimes things are like a lot of these things that proposals and propositions they put in for us to vote for is written to be complicated. It's written to confuse people. So there are certain things I wanted specifics about. So I like how this program here really breaks down some things that I can understand in just English, not any decorative, language to deliberately cause confusion. And I'm trying to find the indivisibles. And it broke down perfectly about some specifics and simple terms about what it's about. And I'll just have to find it. Probably I'm going to do a live later because they have here on here Project 2025 explained and in-depth analysis of the MAGA playbook, 25 things to know about Project 2025, a quick list of 25 things MAGA Republicans have, and it says that is explained. It says a cheat sheet to Trump's authoritarian playbook. A cheat sheet, right? So to read this to you, it has 25 things. Okay, so it says Maga's playbook, fastest playbook for a new Trump term. Project 2025 is a 900-page playbook for Republicans next year if they gain power. It is focused on attacking our rights, giving handouts to billionaires and corporations, and undermining your vote. Number 2, Project 2025 would ban public sector unions and allow states to ban labor unions entirely, ending your right to organize in the workplace. Number 3, government services that keep us safe would be gone, including basics like weather alerts that warn us of dangerous storms and clean air and water programs. Number 4, Trump's Project 2025 would ban medication, abortion, effectively ending access to abortion for millions of Americans. Number 5, the plan says that any books, moves, and TV shows that include LGBTQ content. So, what I'm going to do, I'm going to shut this down and I'm going to open up another live just giving this information because I think I don't want this to get watered down with, topic by topic, which this lady here, the grandma, was talking about. And I want to keep just some sustenance going so people won't have so much to follow and listen to. I'm 1 hour and 5 minutes into the live. So thank you all. Shout out to Lady Libra. Shout out to Patrick LaBelle and everybody sitting in the cut. I'm going to open up another live, probably in about 10 minutes. And I'll see you soon.